Hi, this is Catalina with Granvia, and I am back to cover a topic that is really pressing for me, and it is this sense of wokeism, right? And so I don't really I don't really care about the whole idea of like wokeism and this, that, and the other. I think about what's ethical and right and true. I think about free and appropriate public education. I think about the things that we know are true, and that is policy. And we know research. And so when people think about bilingual education, I do want them to understand one thing. There's nothing woke about bilingual education. And the reason there's nothing woke about bilingual education is because we're doing the right thing for students according to the way that they learn. There's nothing woke about providing special needs students in special education programs the things that they need, their accessibility tools and their manipulatives and all of those accommodations. There's nothing woke about providing those students what they need. If we have a child with speech needs, there's nothing woke about providing those students what they need. If we have children with gifted and talented needs, there's nothing woke about providing gifted and talented students the accommodations they need for gifted and talented services. Bilingual education students, there's nothing woke about providing bilingual education students or English learners what they need in the classrooms in order to be able to learn the content. If there is a problem with bilingual education and with bilingual students getting the accommodations that they need in public schools, then I present to you that the problem is not providing students what they need. The problem is with the presence of Spanish in academic spaces. And that now becomes a ratio-linguistic problem, and that is politicized. But nobody has a problem ethically with the idea that a child get what they need in order to learn. Some people have problems with the ratio linguistics behind Spanish being spoken in academic spaces here in the United States. That is now a political, ideological, philosophical problem, but it is with the person holding that point of view. It is not with the program itself. Because if you were to remove biases, if you were to remove preferences and look at it for what it is policy, it is black and white. This child gets what they need. If you know, another concept that people don't understand is that once you learn it, once you've learned that concept, because you understood it, because it was spoken to you in the language that you understand, then you can transfer those skills into the other language. So if I know how to change a flat tire in Spanish, then I know how to change a flat tire in English. The skill set transfers with me to any language that I speak. If you're in an ESL program and you have the language of instruction is English, then what would a child need to learn how to change a flat tire, right? Just to give an example, to change a flat tire, right? If they speak any language other than English, they need to have visuals, they need to have translation supports if possible, and that should be possible. They need to have the ability to practice hands-on. So now you're thinking about the kinesthetic learner, the visual learner, the audio learner, right? You're thinking about all the learning styles, and you're incorporating that into how you teach that child to change a flat tire. Because who has more of a chance of understanding the class if you teach it in English, right? So if you have the class of how to change a flat tire and you're speaking in English, then all the English speaking students understand the class perfectly. They don't need accommodations. They can just follow along. But anybody that doesn't speak English needs tons of accommodations to get access to the basic skill set that you're trying to deliver that day in class. So there's nothing woke about helping students understand learning. There's nothing woke about it. It's doing what's appropriate for the child, given the fact that they have different learning needs. Another thing that I think is important is that our English learners, unless they have been dually identified in other programs or are potentially, identifiable, right, and express those needs, then they would be general education, just gen ed students if school was being conducted in their home language. So our EBs are general education students with linguistic accommodations. Okay, so language accommodations, they're just all of those methods like sheltered instruction and all of those other things that are means of creating comprehensibility between what you're teaching and how the child understands it. So if the child understands it, then you have created equity. And that to me is effectiveness, right? Then I now have a class where I'm an effective teacher because I know that child learned the concept. They learned how to change a flat tire because I taught it well and I gave X, Y, and Z accommodations to support them in that learning process. And there's nothing woke about giving X, Y, Z to children to support them in the learning processes. If that child was a visual learner, which most of us are, then we need to be sure that we have visual supports to help in teaching. And there's nothing woke about giving visual supports. So if people struggle with the idea of bilingual education, and if people think that it is woke, there's nothing woke about giving children what they need, whatever learning needs they have, right? There's nothing woke about that. And if there is a problem with it, it is not with the idea of giving children what they need. It is with the presence of Spanish in academic spaces, and that is now a ratio-linguistic problem. That is now an ideological, philosophical problem that is not research-based, that is emotion-based, opinion-based, but it is not research-based, and it is certainly not woke doing what's right for students. This is Granvia, and I look forward to seeing you soon.